Hello and welcome to lesson 2 of expert systems. Now, thinking about last lesson, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think of the advantages and disadvantages of an expert system. Okay, and I'll go through some answers with you, so pause the video now. Welcome back. So today we're going to look at expert systems. This is lesson 2 and you're going to investigate different types of expert systems. Now, so let's look at the pros and the cons, or the advantages and disadvantages of expert systems. So, advantages is there's less chance of human error. We are only human. We do make errors, we do misunderstand things, and we do make bad judgment calls. Now, expert systems will never forget an answer to a problem, but a human will. Okay, and that could be, you know, through accidents, just simple mistakes, maybe stresses in life. But computers never do. Now, more knowledge. So, now, I feel this is a little bit of maybe a controversial answer because expert systems are made with human knowledge. Okay, humans make the expert systems and they go to the experts to get the knowledge. Okay, so, but with expert systems, they do have more knowledge than a single human because they would have got the knowledge from several experts. Now, there's less cost as one system basically can replace salaries of many experts. So, whether you consider that as an advantage or not, I suppose is your judgment call. And they're more consistent with answers. So different people have different answers. Okay, but an expert system will have just that one answer. Now, the disadvantages, they cannot make judgments and they do lack common sense. Why? Because they're robots, because they're software, that's all they are. Now, sometimes, you know, humans' problems could be far more complex. Errors that rule, basically, if there's a rule in the base, this can lead to incorrect decisions being made. They require lots of training to use so people can use them correctly. And sorry, that's pretty much it there. So maybe you come up with more ideas. If you feel that you've got more advantages and more disadvantages, then obviously comment on this video below. Now, so we're going to look into some different types of expert systems that are around. Now, you would have investigated some in another lesson. Okay, but we're going to look at more professional ones that are actually used by experts and that are around. Okay, so now there are expert systems used for mineral prospecting. Okay, so mineral prospecting can be oil, precious metals such as gold, maybe certain types of rock, for example, stones, that kind of thing. Now, you may have come across a TV programme, I think called, was it Aussie Gold Hunters or something? And then what these people do is they go into the outbacks of Australia and certain times of the year, because obviously the outback can get, you know, very hot, or, you know, it can rain a lot and, you know, the weather's just not fit for humans. So what they do is they go out there certain times of the year and they find parts of land to dig up and they find gold. So they dig this themselves, and the idea is they try and find a reef, because the reef of gold will have, you know, lots and lots of gold that they can cash in. But there are expert systems that can do this, okay, based on the data that's given. So as you can see here, they're using various types of equipment to find it, and you can see there's actually a computer here. So they may, you know, don't take my word for this necessarily, but they may place sensors in certain parts of the ground, and then the computer will pick up where they're more likely to find these minerals that they're looking for. Okay, so this is knowledge based, and it's using the combined knowledge from many experts as possible. And obviously these experts would have been there, they would have dug into these types of grounds, and they will have the knowledge and the experience to know whether the minerals are there or not. Okay, but there are other forms of data that can be fed into the system. So now these systems, obviously, they help, as I said, find different types of minerals, so like oil and gas. Right, satellite data. Now, as we know, there's satellites that orbit the planet, okay? Several satellites, and we use them for various different things. So we use them for TV, okay? We use them to find our way around the streets. You know, we use them for sat-navs, we use them for Google Maps. But we use them for various other types of data in our Earth as well, okay? So these are pictures taken from a satellite that are of the Earth's surface, which may show outlines of the ground that is not otherwise visible. So, for example, here's some ground here. This is visible to us, but here the satellite is picking up, okay, maybe different minerals that are in the ground, different types that are, of soil, for example, that are in the ground. Now, other ways we can do this with expert system as well is not just using satellite or using a knowledge-based system, but we can actually use sensors. So we can position sensors. So here's an example of a sensor here. Obviously, many sensors may be put even further into the ground. Okay, and we try to look for things like oil. So you can see we're looking for oil here beneath sea level. So the sensors can be positioned into the ground, and then what they can do is they can capture movements and detect activity in that area. So, for example, as you know, there's many volcanoes on this Earth, and you know, the volcano that we know about being in the Canaries is Mount Teide. How do we know Mount Teide is ever going to erupt? How do we know whether Mount Teide is ever going to let out a massive ash cloud like what happened a few years ago in some parts of the world? So what Mount Teide will have, okay, is it will have sensors that are embedded into the volcano, so the scientists can tell whether there's any movements and detect any activity that's going on. Okay, because there are several volcanoes, as you know, on Earth that are active. Now, other ways we can get information into our expert system as well is geological surveys. So as we know, this is all done by humans. We put these knowledge bases into the expert systems to give us the answer to help us as humans. So now the data can be input from the surveys. Okay, for example, an explosion may have happened somewhere. You know, for example, like I said, there's, you know, as we know, there are parts of the world that are dangerous. Okay, so there may be minefields in certain parts of the world. As I said, there are, like, for example, if we go to, I think it's Lanzarote, there's a national park that's got lots and lots of small active volcanoes. So they try to take those geological surveys to see whether the ground's safe or not. Okay, now what you're going to do, okay, is you are going to search for a car engine fault diagnosis expert system. So there's loads on the internet that you can look at, and you're going to look at what they use. So do they use knowledge base? Does the user have to put in information? Okay. Take a look at how modern cars work with these machines, and what faults they diagnose, and where the advantages, what are the advantages of this system, and what types of sensors they are used to provide car fault diagnosis. Now, what I'd like you to look in after that is a chess computer expert system. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some videos of because there are engine car fault diagnosis systems. In fact, what I'll do now is, since I'm recording this video right now anyway, is if I go onto YouTube, this is one you can actually take a look at, and I will put the link to the video. Now, I've got two brothers that love cars, so I know a couple of things. Now, there's a thing called a snap-on tool for cars, okay? And what the snap-on tool does, and there's loads and loads of people here that reviewed it, okay, is the snap-on tool So like I said, there's loads of videos there that you can take a look at for cars. And I remember they took a look at my car when I was in England, and they could diagnose a fault with it. So what this does is, this is the snap-on tool, and they plug it into the car, okay, and what it does is that it will come back with a fault code. And now, I mean, this is obviously one is far more sophisticated than the one they used several years ago, and it will come back with a fault code, and then you can search the fault code on the internet, and it will actually tell you what is wrong with the car. Okay, so they so what they do is they can plug it into, I mean, I plugged it in somewhere in the car I didn't even know existed, but it's designed to actually, because cars are actually designed to tell you what their fault is. So here's an example here now of their interface that you can plug into the cars. Okay, so what I'll do is underneath this video is I'll put some, and obviously on Google Classrooms, I'll put a couple of links to videos there, so you can actually take a look at how do car engine fault diagnoses work. Then answer these questions on a Google Doc and submit it, please, as an assignment on Google Classrooms. Thank you very much.